Okay, so you need to have your PowerPoint on solving rational equations that I sent out to you on Wednesday. That's yesterday on the 15th, which was Digital Day 16. So I'm on the first page of the warm-up, which is saying find the least common multiple for each pair. And so here we see that 2x squared and then 4x squared minus 2x. So what we can see here is that we're going to take the 2x squared, we'll factor, and then what we'll factor out of here will be a 2x, and then we would be left with a 2x minus 1. So really 2x squared and then 2x minus 1 is your least common multiple. And then here, if we factor this out, it will factor to x minus 5, x minus 6, and x plus 5, x minus 6. And here we see that we have x plus 5 here already. So it's going to be x plus 5 and x minus 6. Now, 3 and 4, it says to add and subtract. I don't want you to worry about those because I told you in the last video that you would only add and subtract values that had the same denominator. So we're not going to worry about that one. So what we are going to worry about, though, is how to solve rational equations and inequalities. So basically, a rational equation is an equation that contains one or more rational expressions. The time t in hours that it takes to travel d miles can be determined by the equation. Let's scoot on past this. I'm just going to go to this page to example 1 and just tell you how to do this. So let's solve the equation x minus 18 over x equals 3. Okay, so what we need to do here is basically like getting a common denominator. And in order to do that, we would have to take the greatest denominator, or I guess you would say the least common multiple of each denominator, and multiply it by each term here. So here we see the only denominator we have is x. So we're going to multiply that x by every term. So x times the x times 18 over x, and x times the 3. So what we're going to have when we multiply that is x squared, and then the x's here will cancel, minus 18 equals 3x. And then we're going to put it in standard form, because anytime you see an x squared, you're going to say, okay, I have a quadratic there. So now we have x squared minus 3x minus 18 equals 0. And now we're going to factor it. So we know we're going to have signs of a plus and minus, and we need factors of 18 that has a difference of 3, which we know is going to be 6 and 3. And because the 3 is a negative, our x minus 6 will be larger, go behind the negative, the larger number. Next, just like finding excluded values, you'll set each one to equal 0 and then solve. And so here we see 6 and negative 3. Okay, so here we have another example continued. So they're just showing you how if we plug in 6 for the x's, that both sides will come out to equal 3. So if we plug in 6, then we know 18 divided by 6 is 3, and 6 minus 3 is 3. And then if we plug in negative 3's for both of these, then both sides will come out to equal 3 as well. Okay, now here we have another example. Now here we see we have denominators of 3 and x. So that just means I'm going to multiply everything by 3x. Okay, so what will happen is the 3 will cancel, and we'll have 10x here. Then over here, the x will cancel, and we're going to have 12, and then 6x. And there it is. And we just got that by cross multiplying these. Now, we're just going to put it into standard form, which really we don't have a squared, so we're just going to bring the 6x over here to the 10x and subtract. So 10x minus 6x is 4x, and then we'll have 12, and then divide both sides by 4, and x equals 3. Okay, now in our next one, we have 4 twice and then x. Well, 4 is the same number here, so we're only going to worry about using only one 4, and we're going to multiply everything by 4x. So over here, the x will cancel, and 6 times 4 will be 24. Here, the 4 will cancel, and we will have 5x. And then over here, the 4 will cancel, and we'll have negative 7x. And there it is. So now we will just subtract that 5x to both sides, and that will make that a negative 12x. So we just brought the 5 over here by subtracting. Now guess what are we going to do next? Divide both sides by negative 12, and x equals negative 2. Okay, here we just have an x, so we're going to multiply everything by x. So now we're going to have an x squared. Okay, and then here our x canceled, so 6, and then minus 1x. And then now this is, anytime you have the x squared, then we have a quadratic. When we don't have an x squared, then we have a linear equation. So this one we're going to put into standard form and factor. Set each factor to equal 0 and solve for x. Now, an extraneous solution is one, I'll tell you what, we're not going to worry about extraneous solutions. We're just going to keep it right here. So I'm going to stop at the PowerPoint, and then in the next video, I'm going to work some of these problems for you. So because we are on digital learning, we're just not going to worry about extraneous solutions at this point. It's just solutions that wouldn't work. It's an extra step, but I'm not going to make you do that.